Good evening, Wareham. Welcome to the Select Board meeting of November 14th, 2023. May I have a roll call, please?
Present tonight, we have Mr. Slavin, Mr. Bessie, Ms. Whiteside, myself, Mr. Chadwick. Are you on the There we go, let's try that again.
Do it again.
Present tonight, we have Mr. Slavin, Mr. Bessie, Ms. Whiteside, myself, Chair Chadwick, Ms. Wertz, and Mr. Bowen.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan was excused by me because of the fact that he doesn't have anything to contribute tonight. Let's see.
He's having his
Mr.
hand down.
Buckminster, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are here tonight for only really one bit of business, which is a dog hearing concerning an individual named Devin Stanley and his dog or dogs. So I would ask to have a motion to open the hearing. Mr. Stanley, what is going to happen is we're going to open the hearing. Mr. Bowen will be running the hearing, okay? He will swear in the people who are going to be testifying, okay? Which includes yourself as well as the Department of Natural Resources. You will be able to respond to the allegations. We will be able to ask questions of you. We will then close the hearing, and then we will make a judgment. Is that okay? Thank you very much. So,
Ellen already made the motion.
to open the hearing, may I have a second? Motion made to open the hearing and seconded. I'm going to go for a roll call vote to open the hearing. Mr. Slavin? Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Ms. Wertz? Yes. Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Myself, the hearing is now open. Mr. Bowen, I give you the reins, please, sir.
Oh, fun. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Devin, are you here on your own, or do you have a lawyer with you or anybody like that?
Here on my own.
Okay, why don't you come on up front, sit up front, and then for the, who's here for the prosecution? Mr. Buckminster?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Would anyone who's going to testify please stand and raise your right hand? Yeah, you're going to talk too, Devin, so. Anybody else? Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you.
I'm going to read the hearing notice. This is dated October 5th, sent by certified mail to Devin. Dear Mr. Stanley, in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 140, Section 157 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that a public hearing... Devin, I'll wait. Do you need to get something?
I apologize, yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Get what you need.
This is paperwork.
Let me know when you're ready.
Oh, ready.
Okay. All right, so I'll just finish reading this. In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 140, Section 157 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that a public hearing will be held before the Select Board on Tuesday, November 14th, 2023 at 7 p.m. regarding dogs owned or kept by you. Please find attached a complaint letter from the Wareham Animal Control Officer. If you require more information, please let me know at your earliest convenience. This hearing will be held in person at the Multi-Service Center, room 320, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. Your attendance is required in order that your interests be properly protected. Sincerely, Judith Whiteside, Chair. Devin, did you get that letter?
I do have the letter.
Okay, so there was no issue about you not getting any of this stuff?
Correct.
Okay, so notice is good. At this point, what I'll do is I'll just ask for some opening remarks from the prosecution. Gary, that's you. And then I'll ask Devin if he'd like to say a few words, and then I'll actually ask for sworn testimony. So these are just brief opening statements, just so that the board has a sense of what's going to happen at the hearing tonight. So Mr. Buckminster, go ahead.
Good evening. Gary Buckminster, Director of Natural Resources. I'm here on behalf of Devin Clodier tonight. She could not make it, unfortunately. So I'll be reading from her statement and provide you with the same information you have tonight, so.
Reader's Digest version,
Reader's Digest
what's happened here? Allegedly.
We've ended up with numerous complaints of the dogs getting out. We've had, you'll see from the list, we have a page and a half of different incidents. Loose dogs from, going back from 9/22, following all the way through to, I believe it was 2022. We did have one bite take place at the house. I believe you were bit by your dog, and then we had the dog also got out and went after some geese,
Okay.
ducks on somebody's property as well.
All right, so when you testify, you'll get into more detail on
Yes.
all this. Devin, do you have anything briefly that you want to say at this time, or do you want to wait till you hear what Gary has to say?
Yes, sir. The only thing I might add at this time is I'd like to clarify that the remarks that the gentleman made about the dog biting me has nothing to do with the dogs we're talking about in question this evening.
No, I agree.
Okay.
That would be it.
Oh, no, that's important to know.
That would
Okay.
be it.
All right. So now that the board has a general sense of what's in front of it, Mr. Buckminster, you're under oath. Why don't you testify as to the information that you have?
Thank you. On behalf of Animal Control Officer Devin Cloutier of the Wareham Department of Natural Resources, hereby makes a request to the dogs owned or harbored by Devin Stanley, 5 Shaker Ave, Wareham, Mass., are to be considered a nuisance dog as defined by MGL Chapter 140, Section 136A, by reason of, 1, by excessive barking or other disturbances is a source of annoyance to a sick person residing in the vicinity. Number 2, by excessive barking causing damage or other interferences, a reasonable person would find such behavior disruptive to one's quiet or peace of enjoyment. 3, has threatened or attacked livestock, a domestic animal, or a person, but such threat or attack was not grossly disproportionate reaction under all of the circumstances. Since the beginning of the calendar year 2023, I, Devin Cloutier, have responded to numerous complaints regarding the dogs owned by Mr. Stanley and his inability to contain them. The Department of Natural Resources has responded to many calls to retrieve, return, and follow up on loose dog complaints. As referenced, you'll have the 5 that were referenced. Mr. Stanley has received numerous citations regarding restraining violations. Mr. Stanley has also been given written warnings and citations for failing to license his dogs. Mr. Stanley has been given an ample amount of time and patience regarding this matter. Mr. Stanley has yet to license any of the dogs residing on his property. Mr. Stanley has asked numerous times to been asked to take appropriate measures to contain his dogs and has proven unable to do so. The dogs are known to me, to Devin Cloutier, to be frequent escape from the property and have killed ducks owned by a neighbor. The dogs are known to me to be friendly towards people, but the inability to contain these dogs is a direct risk to their own safety as well as the surrounding animals. I respectfully request that the appropriate measures are taken to ensure that the containment of these animals. And I'll have a list of recommendations from.
All right. Devin, do you have any questions for Gary?
My only question is just in regards to the third consideration as a nuisance, specifically the verbiage that attacked in a person just be omitted, because there's no threat to any person and they're not harmful to people.
Gary, what do you have to say to that?
This would be, this is verbiage that is taken directly from Chapter 140, 136A, and that's what your definition is for.
But you're not saying that
No,
Devin's dogs attacked anybody?
There is an incident with geese ducks that were involved, so
All right.
it does fall within that scope of 140,
So wildfowl,
136A.
but not humans?
Correct.
Okay.
But it has to stay in there because it's part of the
Oh, it's
law
part
that
of the
we're
statute.
that
We
we're
just-
quoting.
We just provide you all
Yeah, I
of the.
understand. Just as long as everyone's aware, this has
Yes.
nothing to
Yeah,
do with
yeah.
people. It's just, it was like a wild duck or something.
No, it's good. It's good to get it cleared up. Devin, did you have any other questions for Gary?
I would say just on the recommendations, if we wanted to go over those, if now was the time or we were going to at a later point, that would be my only other question.
Let me ask the pleasure of the board. Mr. Stanley is obviously interested in going right to the recommendations of the animal control officer. Did the board want to, and Devin, did you have anything that you wanted to say to the board?
The only thing I would say is that over the period of about 3 to 4 weeks, I was having a really rough time with these dogs. It's the first time I've had huskies. They're notorious escape artists. I've constructed a 6-foot fence around my whole property. Since the dogs have been recently getting out, I've been to Home Depot, got concrete, dug like a trench around the bottom of it. In addition to that, I have an enclosed kennel inside of the closed fence that has a lock on it. And I've just been really just trying to get a grip on the situation because it's just not cool for anybody. You know, it's not wasting anybody's time or anything. It's just, I just want to put this to bed. So I've done a lot of things to keep them contained, and I feel like I've got a good hold on it, so.
Well, members of the board, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Mr. Buckminster to give his suggested recommendations. We'll let the gentleman just have a little back and forth on that, and then open it up to the board for questions that you might have for either witness, if that's okay with you. So, Gary, why don't you tell us what the recommendations are?
All right, I have 4 recommendations under the requests. So I have, the first would be that the dogs be humanely restrained, provided, however, that no order shall be provided that the dogs deemed dangerous by chained, tethered, or otherwise tied to an inanimate object, including but not limited to a tree, post, or building. Number 2, that the dog be confined to the premises of the keeper for the dog, provided, however, that confined shall mean securely confined indoors or confined outdoors in a securely enclosed or locked pen or dog run area upon the premises of the owner or keeper. Provided further that the pen, such pen or dog run shall have secure roof and if such enclosure has no floor, secured to the sides thereof, and the sides shall be embedded into the ground of not less than 2 feet. And
So we
provided,
can't dig out?
correct.
Okay.
And provided further that within the confines of such pen dog run, the dog house or proper shelter from the elements shall be provided to protect the dogs. Number 3, that the owner or keeper of the dog provide to the licensing authority or animal control officer or the entity identified in the order information by which the dogs may be identified throughout its lifetime, including but not limited to photographs, videos, veterinary examinations, tattoos, microchips, implantation when we scan dogs.
Not all of those, but just one of them?
Just one of them,
Okay.
yep. Or a combination of any such methods.
Okay.
4 would be that when removed from the premises of the owner or the premise of the person keeping the dogs shall be securely and humanely restrained with a chain or a tether device having a minimum tensile strength of 300 pounds and not exceeding 3 feet in length. Failure to comply with anything that is set forth on this would be remedies hereby ordered to result in further action, including seizure and impoundment of outlined by Chapter 140, Section 157H.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Devin, what do you have to say about all that?
I think that's a good recommendation.
Okay.
I think we need to work together, and I have to get the proper stuff over, videos, whatever we want to do, Chip, talk about that.
Yep.
Gary, how long does Devin have to get all that done?
I would give them, what we've done in the past, 2 weeks, I
30
think?
days
30
at
days?
most, but
Okay.
I have several questions.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Don't worry, this isn't,
Yeah.
all right, so, Madam Chairman, I'll turn it back to the board. I know you have questions.
Mr. Slavin? Go ahead. I think you,
The Huskies, what breed of Husky are they?
Siberian,
Okay, male, females?
females,
how many?
3.
3 females? The reason I ask is I had Huskies for quite a while. They have a tendency to look at you, smile, and go that way.
They're very
And you
intelligent dogs.
And you can call them, you can do whatever you want. They're off. It's not unusual for them to go anywhere from 5 to 10 miles for a little trip. It's really important that you license the dogs and get some identification, because I don't care how you restrain them or whatever, They just will find a way, because they're very strong. They'll leap over fences, they'll do whatever, they'll dig a hole. I had one dig a trench like 5 feet deep to
Yeah.
go under a fence, so I'm just saying, I have a lot of time frame with them, and they're great dogs, but they're a pain in the ass.
I agree, 100%.
But like I say, the only problem we ever had with them is they have a tendency to be aggressive toward other dogs, other breeds in particular. I had Malamute, which is a version of the Huskies, and
Oh,
she
yeah.
was about 130 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
And had a motorcycle business in Brighton Avenue, outside of Boston, and the dog came to me to work every day from a puppy on. And I remember a good-sized Doberman came into the shop, and
Yeah.
my dog was female Samantha. Just out of the blue, was under a table. Next thing I know, she was at the front door,
Oh, no.
pinning the Doberman right to the ground.
Oh,
So I'm
that's-
just saying,
yeah.
this is how they are.
Right.
They're great dogs, but they're very difficult to restrain, and they will take off on you.
Right.
And all I'm saying is you really need to license them for safety reasons. But
Understood.
whatever you're gonna do, if you're out walking them, I don't care how strong the chain is, because they're strong enough to decide to go and you're going with them.
Yeah,
If you have 3 of them at the
Yeah.
same time, there's no way to do that.
I think we're super lucky. I live right in Agawam Lake Shores, where they just opened the dog park.
Yep.
So what I like to do is I have an electric skateboard, and I have them on tethers in their harnesses, so I let them pull me down to the bogs, and we come back. And we were there for the opening day when they cut the ribbon. I got a little piece of the blue ribbon, and lucky enough, the dogs do get along with the other dogs pretty well, but
They usually do.
but definitely understood, and I've taken everything you said into account for sure.
They have a tendency in certain breeds to be aggressive. But if you have an
Yeah.
electric skateboard and all 3 are attached to you and the skateboard, we might have to give them a speeding ticket.
Gotta get that up on YouTube.
I'm all set, thank you.
Mr.
Yeah.
Bessie?
How long have you had the dogs?
So I have the mother, which is about 2.5 years old, and the dog that you heard that had bitten me was the father, and we got rid of him, and I believe he was put down. And so we have 2 of the daughters. So the daughters are about, maybe a little bit over a year. So about 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
The 2 of the 1-year-olds. So
So-
fairly younger.
Fairly young.
Yeah.
And none of them are licensed, is that correct?
Correct.
Is
so-
there a reason why, through all of these issues that have come up and licensing has been an issue, that we haven't addressed that yet?
100% my fault, accountability-wise. I really don't have an excuse for why it's not done. I just have to get it done. And just one of those things where this is a reality check here. I'm sitting here tonight. I haven't been this nervous in a while. I didn't, expect to walk into something like this, but this is like an eye-opener, absolutely. And if I was given the 30 days to accomplish what I had, I'd say it's going to get done. The only thing in addition I have to say to that is I went to Petco to get the rabies shots.
Can we, let us ask the questions, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Bessie, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's my biggest concern is that, we're not talking about, 1 or 2 issues. It's been a while. And following the recommendations before you get to this point where you're meeting with us probably would have been a good thing to do. I'm glad that you're sitting here and owning it and saying, hey, I've made a mistake, because we've dealt with people that don't want to own it. So I can appreciate that, and I thank you for that. But whatever we come up with tonight, I would say do it as quickly as you can to satisfy whatever we ask of you, and learn from it and move on. But the licensing is definitely, to Alan's point, is very important, because if the dogs get out, no licenses, we're not, nobody's going to know who they belong to, and, or worse, something could happen to either the dogs or someone else. So just definitely, please, the licensing is the biggest thing.
I agree.
Ms. Sports?
Yeah, hi, Devin.
Hi.
One of the complaints, there seems to be a complaint about noise, about the dogs barking and barking and barking and barking. And that can be really problematic if neighbors need to sleep or it's close to their home. And I don't see any recommendations in this packet about training and, whether you muzzle them at night, especially so people can sleep, whether you and they go through training so that they understand, you understand how to tell them stop, and they understand they can stop. And that's probably one of the more detailed thing I think you need to address, because first of all, I'm thrilled. I'm not thrilled they bit the goose. I'm thrilled that they haven't bitten any people. Duck? I'm not thrilled they bit the duck, but I am thrilled they haven't bitten people. But they are puppies, you know, so they're in training mode, and part of that training mode, I think, has to address the consistent barking that is upsetting probably a number of neighbors, and it's not fair to them.
Thank you. Chadwick?
I'm just going to read something to you real quick, and I've known this for a while. First, I want to tell you, I love dogs. Love dogs more than humans sometimes, so let that be known. But I don't know if you know this, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I read the thing about the Muscovy duck that's in here. Mr. Bowen, you can correct me at any time if I'm wrong, but Mass General Law, where'd it go? Chapter 140, Section 156. Any person may kill a dog which suddenly assaults him while he is peaceably standing, walking, or riding outside the enclosure of its owner or keeper, and any person may kill a dog found out of the enclosure of its owner or keeper, not under his immediate care, in the act of worrying, wounding, or killing persons, livestock, or fowl. If any person shall kill or attempt to kill a dog so found in the act of worrying, wounding, or killing persons, livestock, or fowl, he shall not be held liable for cruelty to the dog unless it shall be shown that he is intended to be cruel to the dog, or that he acted with a wanton and reckless disregard for the suffering of the dog. So the entire, there's a lot more to it, but you can read it, and I just want to make it known that is a fear of mine. It's a fear for any dogs. Like I said, I love dogs, but that law is so broad that anyone could say that your dogs got out and they worried, and they could kill your dogs, and they would get away with it scot-free. And especially fowl. Was it a Muscovy duck? Was I correct on that?
I believe so, yes.
Did it kill it?
I don't know if it, I believe it was.
I heard the story. I didn't see any.
I believe
duck.
it was killed.
It was
Yes.
killed.
All right. The owner of that duck could have taken out your dog, and there was be nothing you could do about it. And like I said, I couldn't even imagine that happening to a dog. So
Yeah.
just be careful and try and keep them as best you can. I don't ever want to see that in the paper.
Yeah, no, thanks, man, me either. No, I get what you're saying. You're right.
Thank you.
Okay, how long have you lived at this address?
Since 2019,
Okay, and so you've had the dogs at this address for at least the 2.5 years that you've had the mother, is that correct?
correct.
Okay, so for 2.5 years, you've had at least one dog not licensed in the town of Wareham, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Are you aware that there is a law in Massachusetts about licensing dogs?
No. Especially during COVID, I didn't know.
Do your dogs have a veterinarian?
We
Have they
go-
had their shots?
We go to Petco. We go get their shots. Like we don't have like a designated veterinarian. Whenever they
Have
pop
they had
up,
rabies shots, sir?
I can get you all. No, they haven't. I have their tags, but they didn't show up at the Petco. That's why they don't have them. And I was talking to Mr.
Tell you that
Bessie.
my patience is about here at the moment, okay? For 2.5 years, sir, you have lived and harassed your neighbors. You have had your dogs destroy somebody else's livestock. You have been cautioned for at least 7 months, according to these documents, to license the dogs and to contain the dogs. You have taken virtually no steps to license the dogs. Is that correct?
That's not correct.
What have you done to license the
I
dogs?
brought them to Petco to get the rabies shot, and the veterans didn't show up.
And when did you take them?
I can get the documentation for you, but I don't have it with me right now.
A week ago, 2 months ago?
Probably closer to months, we're talking.
Okay. Do you have homeowners insurance, or do you rent?
I'm the homeowner.
Do you have homeowners insurance?
Yes, we're required to.
Okay. And do you have an umbrella policy?
Again, I don't know the specifics of that. If you'd like, I can get back to you with the paperwork on that.
Okay. Are you aware that the law also says that the person whose animal you killed can be paid $25 per animal, duck, whatever?
I'm not aware of that either.
I'm all set. Would you like to close? Mr. Bowen? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure. I think Sorry, forgetting that tonight. Tractor Supply does the shots, Petco does the shots, PetSmart does the shots, and I think even Born Fire had a vet.
Tractor Supply.
Vet to do them as well. So just keep your eyes open for it.
Okay.
They're literally in this area, I think almost every month between all of them.
All right.
And within the next 30 days, you should be easily able to get it done. And I believe you might be able to help me on this, but Tractor Supply is just a walk-in, I believe.
So on the Tractor Supply side, it's definitely recommended, like, look it up, but be there like first thing in the morning of the day that they're there, because people do show up and they only take so many people. But I wouldn't lean solely on just the Petcos of the world. Like, at the end of the day, if you got to go to an actual vet and make an appointment to get these rabies shots, it's got to be a priority. We can't have an excuse of, well, they didn't show up, because if you make an appointment with a vet, they're going to be there the day that you need to show up.
Okay.
So my recommendation is, all those places are great, but your back's against the wall right now, and my recommendation would be to skip all of these other businesses that do them and find a vet that will do them for you. Because you've got 30, if we give you, whatever we give you, say if it's 30 days, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to find a vet in the area, whether it's here, Wareham, Buzzards Bay, Marion, Mattapoisett, somewhere. You'll be able to get your dogs in within within that window of time.
Okay.
Because we don't want to have to come back with, non-compliance because you couldn't find, the rabies appointment because none of those were available. So that's my recommendation. That it's great for, things when you don't necessarily need them, but you want to get them.
Yeah.
But right now you don't have it's not really an option. So I would definitely start reaching out to the local vets and seeing if you can get an appointment for them, because you're not going to be able to walk in. You're going to need to make an appointment.
Okay.
And it's not going to be tomorrow, based on what I know about, vets and, usually, 2, maybe 3 weeks out. So I would
Alright.
start reaching out tomorrow,
Okay.
to make that plan.
So there's a new.
There's a new one
there's a
right in the
new
mall.
vet. Yep. there's a
Right
new
next to
vet that's
Starbucks.
accepting patients.
Are they open now?
Yes.
He
They
just
opened
opened.
Right,
2
the
days ago.
Longhorns over there?
Yeah.
Right
In
next
front
to
of Walmart, right?
Yeah, right
next to Starbucks.
Chipotle.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that-
okay.
So there's
Okay.
Chipotle, then there's a little empty unit, and then right on the end,
Alright.
I didn't realize that they had already opened.
2 days
but-
ago.
It's
Yeah,
like
so,
urgent care or something?
yeah, it's like an urgent care, so that would probably be quicker than going to a regular vet, and I'm sure they'd be able to get you in.
All right, perfect.
Maybe it may cost a little bit more than, but at this point, I don't think that
It's
the
done.
money's.
It gets done.
Okay.
Yeah.
May I have a motion to close the hearing?
Yes. I move to close the dog hearing in the name of Devin Stanley.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
To close the hearing? Motion made and seconded to close the hearing. And I will take a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin? Yes. Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Ms. Wertz?
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, the hearing is closed. I'd like to make a couple of suggestions. I would like that only one dog at a time be walked outside of his property. I want every single shot known to man administered to these dogs. I want the rabies. I want them either tattooed or chipped. I want them licensed, and I want to see the homeowner's insurance, and I want to see the umbrella policy that you have. But I do not want you walking any more than one dog at a time. You have not been able to control these animals, and I really don't understand how somebody over the age of 12 wouldn't know some of the rules that you have to have been living by. And if I were your neighbor, I'd be very, very unhappy person. Now, we haven't addressed the barking.
Am I
Excuse
able
me.
to respond to
Excuse me.
that?
No. Ms. Wertz, you were the one who raised the issue about the barking. What,
So, in the complaints, there were several complaints about the barking consistently keeping their neighbors up and awake, and I have lived through that upon occasion. It's not good. So, I'm not a dog owner. I like cats. So, but in the scheme of things, you can muzzle animals so they don't bark. The preference, in my mind, would be that you and the dogs go to training so that the dogs understand when you say no bark, no barking. And they're puppies. It's a good time to work with them. They're going to have to work, but that bothering your neighbors morning, noon, and night with barking is not a good thing.
So, I'm gonna chime in here, and the only reason, okay,
Wait a
okay.
sec. What do you think you can do for barking, Devin?
I think that I can get a muzzle for them and I can bring them to training. I think that's an excellent idea.
You'd accept that as a condition?
Absolutely.
I'd like another condition, but go ahead, you were next.
So I'm just gonna chime in because I live over in that neighborhood. I live over in Maple Springs, and huskies don't necessarily bark. It's more of a howl, and I can hear them over from my house. So it is a concern, especially for the people. If I can hear it and I'm on the other side of the bogs, I can't imagine what your neighbors have to deal with. I get it, they're young, but I think now is the time to really find ways to contain it. And I think muzzles is a good idea, some type of a training. There's tons of great dog trainers in this area. So I think that definitely is something that needs to be conditioned, because it's going to help you as an owner to teach them that, but maybe learn some other things about maybe not escaping. But I don't know if you're ever going to train that because they're too smart. But definitely try to find a way to contain it, because like I said, if I was right next to your house, I'd probably not. I mean, I love dogs. I have I don't like cats. I love dogs, but definitely need to find ways to control in all aspects, because they're just an extension of children. I have 5 kids, so like I get it. Like it's a tough life between animals and dogs and cats and children, but we definitely have to find a way to control it to make it easy for you, but also to make it peaceful for your neighbors, because I'm sure that they didn't sign up to have dogs making loud noises and not being able to sleep, because who knows what their life is like as far as work and things like that. So definitely figure that out and make that part of the conditions that we're gonna.
Mr. Chadwick?
One last thing. I looked this up real quick. Microchips, like Ms. Whiteside said, they have self-administration kits, 5-pack on Amazon for $14. Save you some money so you don't have to go to the vet for that section of it.
Okay.
And then $30 for a reader to make sure it's done correctly.
All right.
So $50, I mean, you get everything done for 5 dogs if you had 5 dogs.
Yeah, you see.
And some rabies clinics also offer it as part of one of their programs too, so.
May I speak? May I say something in regards to the suggestions? I agree with every suggestion other than the one, and the only reason I say this is because the trouble we've had with these dogs is not when I'm walking them. The trouble is when they were in the yard and I didn't have an enclosed shed, an enclosed kennel. The nature of the breed of this dog is a husky. They run in packs. That's how I get their energy out. I would have to push back That would be the only suggestion I would say.
What we order is what we order, sir. So you can push back, but
Right,
I'm
just in regards.
I'm much more irritated about this than anybody sitting here right now. The other thing I want to ask you is, what kind of leash do you have for these dogs?
The Kong leash, the ones that they can't bite through.
So they're not retractable?
No,
Okay,
What is it
excellent.
called?
no. It's
Kong.
like the Kong one. They're like the tough.
K-O-N-G.
Yeah, they're the tough, they can't, they're supposed to be not chew throughable, but my dog, she knows how to get through a Kong.
She's a smart one.
But they're, for the most part, they're very good. It's a very good product across all lines of what they have, but some dogs are pretty good at, taking them to task, and making their way through.
Right.
But,
Seems to me that we give you a window of 30 days. During that, I'm willing to back off a little bit. During that 30 days, only one dog at a time outside of your primary fencing or whatever it is that you're calling it. If after the 30 days you've been able to provide everything else, then I would be willing to change my recommendation. At this moment, I am not willing to. Now, I'm only one vote here, but sound carries over water. I am sure that everybody within a 5-mile radius, anywhere near water, hears your dogs. I think that they should be in at 10 o'clock at night, period. Walk them, bring them in, shut them in. They're going to bark, they're going to bother you. You are the epitome of an irresponsible dog owner. I'll take a motion. Yeah,
Gary, we have a policy, I thought, as far as dogs barking.
There's
There's
a,
a certain time frame. 2
yes,
hours
correct.
constant.
It's listed within the bylaw. We can provide
I
them
think it was
with
like 2
everything.
hours
And
constant.
it's like 15 minutes, and then after the 15 minutes, you have a right of expectation. And then after, I believe it's like the noise ordinance, after, I believe it was like 10 PM, there shouldn't be any barking
Yeah,
at
'cause
all.
I know we have
Yeah.
it, because a former selectman used to have problems with his German Shepherd
We
constantly.
get
so I think maybe.
dozens of
having that-
calls a week.
know,
It's,
that's
this
just
is not an
somebody
uncommon
comment that we
situation
have a thing
across town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just don't, as far as the barking goes, unless they're inside, you're not gonna be able to do anything, because it's the nature of the dog. I understand the problem with it, but if it's a full moon, those dogs bark, period. They don't bark, they howl.
Yeah.
So you'll have to do what you can to keep them inside, whatever, but some of the things that the chair is asking for, I think is draconian. It's too much. I understand people are upset because you haven't done anything, and they don't have a lot of faith in you doing anything, because there's no excuse for where you're at. But I just think we've gone a little excessive, and I'm not going to agree to some of the things that have been proposed.
so I'm going to ask you if you all would go along with recommendation number 1, which is the dogs all be humanely restrained, blah, blah. Yes? Yes?
When you say humanely restrained,
Item 1 on your piece of paper. However, that no order shall provide that the dog be deemed, deemed dangerous be chained, tethered, or otherwise tied to an, in other words,
just so you all understand, because you don't have experience with this particular breed, when the Huskies go into heat in particular, but thankfully you don't have a male right now, I've seen a Husky break a half-inch chain, chain to a tree, actually snap the chain because they just bang away.
Oh, my goodness.
All I'm saying is whatever you do for restraining, whatever we think is okay won't be strong enough.
but it says it cannot, the dogs
I
cannot be
understand.
tethered to a building or a tree or a post or anything. So they would have to be on leash or under, okay. I'm just going to go for.
May I just clarify
Yeah.
one thing?
Yeah.
I've seen Mr. Stanley's setup, and he has thoroughly invested in the interior of his property. It's the problem is the getting out of the fence, and so that's what it is. But in general, he has a full shed for the dogs. I believe it's air conditioned and heated, as well as an outdoor setup. So, and the fence is extremely high. I'm sorry?
Are the fence posts in cement. and
I
fence
believe
itself
we have to
very-
go follow up with it. We can follow up and make sure that, we can make sure the areas are all checked, and we'll see what
They will
the,
dig a substantial hole.
yes. Because I mean, my same thing, I have a dog that likes to dig under the fence too, and I have to do the same thing for my own, but I'm,
That's
you know,
what I want to
that's
make.
one of the things we
As
did.
far as the fence goes, I'd like to make sure that.
My dog tried
we
to dig
sign
under
off
the
on it.
house.
Guys,
Yeah.
let's stop the chatty stuff. Item number 1, that the dog be humanely restrained, provided that it's not tied to an inanimate object like a building or a post or something. Yes or no? Mr. Slavin? Which is what the recommendation from the Department of Natural Resources.
How are you restraining it?
I am not restraining it by tying it to a tree, a post, or a building.
Dennis, how is it being restrained?
Yep.
If I could, you have a set of 4 recommendations from your animal control officer, who I know she's certainly far more expert on these matters than I am. I won't presume to judge the knowledge of the board on these things. I think when she drafted this, it was probably one of these situations where if she, in following up, saw something that looked inhumane, she's going to say that. I think trying to define what a humane restraint is going to be could be a several-week exercise. You know, my advice would be to and I'm sorry if I'm overstepping my role here, but, you know, I would consider a motion such as, I move to accept the animal control officer's recommendations with the additions that, for example, Devin said he was agreeable to a muzzle, if I remember hearing that correctly. Madam Chairman said that for a 30-day period, that the dogs would have to be walked singly, and that Mr. Buckminster and his department will follow up as to compliance with licensing laws and the matters in your order. And were the board to vote to adopt that, and then if you didn't get the rabies shots and the licenses and all the other stuff, I mean, you'd just be back here again, and there'd be probably harsher recommendations. But anyway, you know, that's the kind of motion I think you want to look at. She's the animal control officer is the expert.
And furthermore, all of this language is taken directly from the law. So these are standard things that we get every time we have one of these hearings. Okay, so yeah, go for, try a motion for numbers 1 through 4, Mr. Chadwick.
I move to approve. Having a hard time with that tonight, I don't know why. I move to approve motions 1 through 4.
Well, first of all, we move to declare the dogs nuisance dogs, and therefore, we follow the recommendations 1 through 4 of the animal control officer. Was that your motion?
So moved.
That's what,
Okay. Is that a second?
second,
Okay. I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin?
yes.
Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Ms. Wertz? And Mr. Chadwick and myself? Yes. I'd like to add that until all of the licensing has been accomplished, that they go only one at a time outside of his house. Do I get a second on that one?
I'll second that.
Okay. Until all of the legal restrictions have been taken care of, he walks them one at a time. The problem I have is if they escape again and they're not identifiable, and
That's not part of the motion, that's
Okay.
discussion.
yeah, okay. So that's my motion. I have a motion and a second. I will go for a roll call here. Mr. Slavin?
Yep.
Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Ms. Wertz?
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick?
Oh,
And myself, yes, that is so. I also want to give him a 30-day window to have the dogs properly inoculated, including their rabies, and licensed. May I have a second to that motion?
second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote. Mr. Slavin?
Yes.
Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Ms. Wertz? Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay, that's 30 days. I also would like to have the dogs inside the house by 10 o'clock each night. May I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded for the dogs to be inside the house by 10 PM.
Can we amend that?
Sure.
You said, do the dogs live in the house, or do they,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do they live inside the house?
in the house, or,
The dogs do not come in the house.
all right, so you have like a,
They
you said
have-
it was air-conditioned, heated, and
Yeah,
everything?
It's a full.
Can they be shut in?
Yes.
All right, so,
So the dogs would be inside,
In their residence.
in
their
their,
residence?
They have
inside
their own
a
residence, yes.
contained, in their kennel
Awesome.
with a door so that they, okay. Is that okay with your second?
Yeah, except for it doesn't, it only addresses a little piece about the noise.
You know,
We're a club, Jared. It only addresses a piece of the noise. I think the issue about training for both the dogs and the
can come
owner.
back.
Going over the-
we can
Yeah.
go back and get a motion on that one, too.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
Okay, I'm going to go for the 10 PM curfew. Mr. Slavin?
When does it start? When does it end?
It starts now, tomorrow, tonight.
No,
It says 10 PM.
10 PM. What time in the morning?
Oh,
7?
7.
No, I would say 6 o'clock, because
6,
dogs want
yeah,
to
they're
go out
gonna-
and stuff like that.
Devin,
What time do
you
they
go to work?
usually-
I leave for work at 5 in the morning.
Ooh,
So what happens is my girlfriend is at home with our 2-year-old daughter, and she lets them out, I would say, about 6:45-ish.
Perfect.
let's go to 6.
Yeah.
So let's say 6
Six.
o'clock.
Let's
That
say
gives
6
a-
o'clock.
That gives a good
So
window
10 to
of
6.
start.
Could we just work with the bylaw timeframe?
What's that?
Sure,
What
what's
is the
bylaw?
bylaw?
Well, it's just a noise ordinance, so I mean, if we have barking, we'll handle it.
It's
accordingly.
on the noise ordinance.
Okay,
So
then
if
I
it's- if it's with-
withdraw my motion.
Yep, it's,
It's already in place, so.
Okay.
I have another question. Devin, once your partner goes to work, is she home all day or does she go to work?
So I have my own contracting business, and we're lucky enough so that she's able to stay home all day and take care of the child, so she is at home all
So-
day. She
So
doesn't-
are the dogs ever left out without somebody at home? In other words, once they start barking, can they be restricted and brought in, or are they just left outside even during the day?
How the setup is they're allowed out in the regular yard, we'll call it, and if we feel like they're barking or they're misbehaving, they then go back into their kennel. So they are not left unattended in
They're
the
never,
regular yard.
are they ever left outside when no one's at the house?
No, never,
Okay.
ever.
Okay, so I withdrew my motion for the 10 PM. Can you withdraw your second, please?
Me?
Yep.
Withdrawn.
Thank you. I will make a motion that we see his homeowner's insurance and that he has $1 million of liability.
second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on that motion? I'll go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin?
No.
Bessie?
Yes.
Wertz?
I need to understand his no first.
I can't let you do that.
Then I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Okay, 311. You can bring that to Mr. Buckminster or to the Select Board's office. And there was one other, yours,
We need to address the training.
the training.
I make a motion to, I make a motion that the owner of the dogs and the dogs go through training for barking control.
Is there a second to that? I'll second it.
I'd like to make an amendment to that.
Go ahead.
I'd like to say a 90-day for the training. Training's not easy to find, and it's extremely costly, and he has kids, and we have holidays coming up.
So you're talking about letting him, that he has a 90-day
He has a
window.
90-day window
To get it
to
done.
initiate the training,
Is that all right with you?
instead
Mr.
of a 30-day window.
So what's that put us in January?
Give him till January to get the.
February.
Give him to the end of January.
Yeah, give,
Is that all right?
that's all right, yeah.
Is that your
But it
motion?
doesn't, as long as it doesn't get forgotten, because nothing
It'll be part
happens
of
for
the-
3 months.
It'll be part of the letter he gives. Okay, so by the end of January, he will have commenced his training to have barking control. That's your motion?
So it's actually
Yeah,
Yep. Is there a second to that?
Second?
Okay. I'll go for a roll call vote.
Questions?
Yep, go ahead.
I just want to put it on record that you're not going to be able to train dogs of that particular breed to stop barking in 90 days.
No, he has 90 days to get the
To get
training
the
commenced.
training
Started.
It's finished, just to get it started.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you understand, in order to get dogs of this type trained, not to bark.
It could take 12 months, it could take
Yeah.
a year.
Take
take
5
a year
years,
or
yeah.
more, and
Yeah,
also
but as long as
That's
it's,
why I said
it's going to
initiated.
require an electric collar and electric
Yeah,
shock.
bark collar.
Okay,
It's not going to do it
That's
by
true.
dog training.
so it would be, the 90-day window would end February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, I guess. Okay, so may I have a roll call vote, please? Mr. Slavin?
No.
Mr. Bessie?
yes.
Ms. Wertz?
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Are there any other additions to this? No? Okay. Mr. Stanley, you will get a letter in the next few days that outlines everything that you are required to do. Mr. Buckminster will get a copy of the letter,
Yeah, I think.
and I will tell you that if there are any more complaints, then you're going to be back here.
Judith, did I vote on this?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you did.
Yes.
I thought I did too.
You
Yes,
did.
You did.
Okay.
Well, I thought there was some new words that you were going to
She
vote.
said,
No, I said February 14th,
Okay.
as opposed to the 90 days. Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, I thought so.
So, my
she
fault.
did.
That's okay.
Better to be safe than sorry.
So do you understand the restrictions that you have to come up with, Mr.
Yes, I
Smith?
do.
Okay. All right, I'll accept, we are done with that. We have a couple more things that I need to go into for Mr. Buckminster. Mr. Stanley, you're all set, you can leave.
Do we need to close the meeting?
It's already been
We
closed.
already
Already been
did.
closed.
Yep.
You're all set, Devin.
So
Thank you.
Get her
Thank
done,
you.
Deb, okay?
Thank
we
you.
had a request from, or we had a notification from the Commonwealth that Bebo's Sports Grill has applied for a Keno license. We have 21 days to object to that. If we want to object to them getting a Keno license, then we have to take that action now. Mr. Slavin, would you want to object to them applying for a Keno license?
No.
Mr. Bessie?
Now, is it
Just Keno?
it's just Keno,
Well, it's
not
Keno.
full lottery tickets?
It's the whole thing.
Okay, so
Yeah,
a
It's-
Vic license for lottery?
Yeah.
For all lottery, not just Keno?
right, but it's from the state. We don't issue it.
No, I know that,
Yeah,
but I'm
so,
just,
yes,
so it's a full lottery,
the
not
full-
just Keno?
yeah.
Okay.
okay.
No, I don't have objections to
Ms.
that.
Wertz, do you
I
have a
don't
problem?
have an
Okay.
objection.
Okay. Mr. Chadwick, do you have a problem with them applying for a Keno license at Bebo Sports Grill?
Negative.
Thank you. Is there any other business to come before us?
My apologies.
No problem. Then I will accept a motion to
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Thank you.
Second?
It's non-debatable. Mr. Slavin,
Sure.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
and myself. Good night, Wareham.